So should Barack Obama win the election in November, he'll need to find a new economic team to help him with the next 4 years. Now, one person who used to be at the Treasury and who's now the Chief Operating Officer at Facebook would probably be on his list. Rob, this is Sheryl Sandberg. You've been looking at this. The problem here is the same with a lot of people coming from industry, especially at a high level, is a lot of stock that not all of which has yet vested. What you looked at all the numbers. What did you conclude?
Well, I mean, you take a job for a lot of different reasons. Let's not just, obviously, if you're someone like Sheryl Sandberg, you've had a lot of success. She has about $800 million worth of stock,
right,
the majority of which has vested. They're called restricted stock units. A
Right,
lot of that
so
is tax.
Even after all the IPO prices come down, it's still nearly $1 billion.
Well, actually, the $800 million is taxed as normal income due to like a weird thing in the tax code. But it's like it's like $500 million that she's going to get.
Right.
That's a lot of money,
Right.
So you can pretty much do what you want at that point.
But if things go by the book, and if she were to consider going to Washington next year, she'd have to give some up.
She'd give quite a bit up, yeah. She has about, assuming she takes the job after inauguration, she'll have about 130 million, perhaps a little bit less, of options and equity that haven't vested yet. In other words, if she goes to Washington, she loses them, and that's quite a bit of money for anyone.
It's quite a hefty price to put on somebody for the joy of public service.
Right. Being a public servant, you do get there are a couple of perks. For instance, if you do take a job in Washington, if you have capital gains, you get to defer them. That doesn't really come into play.
She'd have paid tax on these already, basically.
But the only thing is that there have been cases where people go down to Washington, the companies decide, let's give you a nice parting gift, we'll make everything vest immediately. That happened to Hank Paulson when he came from Goldman. Goldman accelerated the vesting.
So the company basically says, look, if you're going to public service, then we don't think that's a problem for us, and maybe good for us, but it's certainly good for the country, so we'll make it, we'll leave you even on the deal.
Yeah, it was probably a bit good for Goldman too, I suspect.
I'm guessing it may have been, yeah.
And it could be the same thing with Facebook. You think about it, Facebook's under a lot of controversy in D.C. They've got a lot of people wondering about, whether privacy issues, there are all sorts of issues. And you have to wonder if having a highly praised friend in Washington would be a great thing for the company. And again, it's also, I'm not saying that Sandberg would go there for those reasons. Sandberg, she had a history of going. She was in Washington before, and she did a very good job at Treasury before.
Right. I guess the other question is, there's potentially a lot of work to do at Facebook, so she may feel there's a lot of work to do at Facebook.
After the IPO, I mean, if you think about it, the stock's down about half, about 50%. Right. There's a lot of hand-holding that needs to be done on Wall Street.
And she's viewed as the grown-up in the room.
So she's the natural person to do it. So
okay, we'll leave it there. We'll be keeping an eye, obviously, on Facebook, on Sheryl Sandberg, and on President Obama, and we'll have more breaking views tomorrow.